Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Oh, another live sale weekend. What fun. I have to switch my camera around, which is good. We'll give a few moments for people to come in. There we go. Hi, Kathy. Hi, Darlene. So great to see you. Hi, Kim. It feels like long time no see, right? How's everybody doing? What a beautiful January we've had. Usually we're sitting here in January talking about how cold it is or the latest snowstorm, and here we are just getting this easy breezy January here in northern New York. Hi, Rita. Hi, Ann. So glad you could come. Hey, Joyce. Great to see you. Awesome. I have the kickoff spot, which makes me extra nervous. But kicking off the fun weekend. Our internet is really extra terrible today, so I've got fingers crossed, I have toes crossed that everything goes smoothly. I have my kids all kicked off the internet, Alexa's unplugged. So this afternoon, who who doesn't love making Valentines, right? When we were in grade school, we did all the pasting and the cutting and so much fun, so many happy memories. Maybe not so happy memories, depending. Hopefully, you have happy Valentine memories. I have strange Valentine memories sometimes, but I thought that this afternoon we would make some Valentines together. So if you have mixed media supplies with you, grab some paper, grab some paint, anything you have on hand for making textures, for creating Valentines with me. They don't have to be exactly what I'm doing, but grab some paper and paint along. And if not, when the demo is over and you have time, come back, watch the demo, and have some fun making some Valentines. So this is the one that's going to kick things off for us. But you can see, let me move I had some supplies set out here so you can have an idea what was going on. I have all these little hearts ready to go. So I want to show you how to get a base that you can use for these sweet little tiny hearts, which I have a hole punched in this one so it can be used as a tag. Or you could place it in your tiered tray. You know I'm all about those tiered trays and those little tiny accents that make them so special. But you could tuck them in if you still have kids at home. You could tuck them in your kids' lunch pail for an extra little surprise. Gift them to someone for a little random act of kindness. So many things that these tiny little hearts with a big expression can do. So, hey, Carrie, great to see you. Hi, Diane. I'm going to miss some of you. Hi, Denise and Carol. I'm so glad y'all came this afternoon. Okay, so I want to show you how quick and easy these can go together. So what we're going to start out with is some book paper. And you know me, I'm all about the old paper. Hi, Julie. Good to see you too. So I have some book pages from an 1800s encyclopedia because I love working with all the old papers. It makes the item that I end up with all vintagey, which I just love. So I'm just going to kind of flip through here, and I'm looking for a paper, in this case, that has a lot of similar text. So like on this page, we have the dark headings, and on dictionary paper, we have a lot of those bright headings. And sometimes we're all about that. The dictionary paper is wonderful because you've got bold print, italic print, tiny print. And so it gives a lot of variety right out of the gate for mixed media. But for these little hearts, we want all the textures and things that we put on top. So I'm going for, better back my camera out here. Whoop, wrong way, she can't drive. There we go. So I'm just looking for a page that has a lot of similar text. And then I'm going to use my big mixed media pad to glue this down because since the paper is so old, I want to have something nice and sturdy underneath it so that it won't warp. So what we're going to start out with is matte medium. And I use Liquitex Fluid Matte Medium. If you have Deco Art Decoupage matte, you can use that just fine and dandy, especially for this. So I'm just going to squirt some matte medium out into my little cup, and I'm going to put matte medium. So I'm using mixed media paper. This is actually going to be the backing for the heart. So not only is it giving stability to the paper while it dries by keeping it in the notebook, but this is a nice sturdy paper, and this is going to become part of our Valentine. So I'm just going to brush matte medium all over the mixed media paper. Yes, I just set this face down right in the matte medium. It's totally fine because we're going to have matte medium all over it. I'm coating the back of the paper now. I want to make sure I get all of my edges, and then I'm going to flip this over quickly, so I do it before the paper has time to really absorb the matte medium on the wrong side. And I'm applying more matte medium to really adhere this down to my page. Okay, and I know from experience that time flies in here, so I'm not going to take the time to get this all squeegeed out, and I'm saving my fingers also because I have a page all prepped and ready. But normally what we would do is rub over this paper to get all the excess matte medium out from beneath the paper, and then we would use our brush to smooth everything back out again and let it dry. But just like a good old cooking show, through the magic of television, I have a page here that's all ready to go. Okay, and I'm wondering if I need to back out even a little bit more. There we go. So we're going to put a whole bunch of different textures on this one page, and then we're going to cut this up, and our hearts will all come out of this page. Okay, so this is what I did with all of these. So we want to make a lot of just random textures right now. And then when we're finished, see all the different textures on each one. Each little heart is going to have a nice variety of things going on. And this will be the base for our Valentine. So the first thing that I'm going to do is grab my gesso. And I want to show you just a couple of different ways that you can go forward from here. And how you can get different looks from it. So the first thing that I'm going to do is just go ahead and brush some gesso on so that the text is muted from the white gesso. My gesso is a little thick, so I'm actually going to come onto my palette paper, and I'm going to thin this with a little matte medium because I don't want the white to be opaque. I want to be able to see the text through. So I'm just going to thin that with a little matte medium. Hello, Terry. Oh, Barb, hi. So good to see everyone. Okay, so I'm just going to brush over part of my paper with the gesso so you can see the difference right away. This top is now very softly muted, but we can still see the text through, which is awesome, exactly what we want, versus the raw paper on the bottom. So another look is to take gesso and kind of scoot it across the paper and spread it. So I'm going to I've got some gesso on my palette knife, and I'm going to come back to this pile that I already had thinned, and I'm mixing it in so that this is thinned just a tiny little bit. My gesso is getting a little thick, and so this is just thinning it a smidge so that it's spreadable. Hey, Kathy, awesome that you joined us. Hi, Glenda. Hi, Bobby. Okay, so on my palette knife, and this palette knife, I've bent my blade so I could have a long surface, but I wanted this angle so that I can set my palette knife down and just kind of like you're frosting a cake, but just skimming the surface because we don't want to get this solid. See these little skips and this texture that it makes right here? Let me turn that's what we're after. These little, so it kind of looks like, to me, it reminds me of plaster. And I love that look. So I'm just loading up my blade, and I've got it kind of at a 45-degree angle, and then just very lightly drag across the paper. So I get all this awesome texture. So that's going to give me the start to my base. I'm going to grab some Salem blue, but you know what? We all have different happy colors. So pick your happy colors. I love Salem blue and whispering turquoise and antique rose and matcha green. Those are my sweet colors. But you pick the colors that you love, and that way you're going to be in love with your project right from the beginning. So I'm just going to wipe my blade off real quick, and then I'm going to pick up Salem blue, and I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the white, but now I'm going to go on top of this, the gesso that I brushed on, so I'm getting a second layer up here, just skimming, so I can still see some of that, some of my lighter text showing through, and I could even come down here and just add, it's all about the layers. So we could do this wherever. We could transfer some from down here and bring some up here, whatever you want. Just make texture any way you like. So I'm not going to let my gesso dry. Dun, dun, dun. I have one here already dry. So here's a sheet, nice and dry, 2 layers. Now I want to get some more interest on. So for that, I'm going to grab some stencils. So if you've purchased my mixed media kits before, you know that in each one you get one of these little mini stencils, and they are so handy. You don't have to use mine, of course. Use any stencils you have on hand. But since I have these, and they're all these awesome little tiny patterns, that's what I'm going to use. So I'm going to grab some antique rose, get another color going on here. And I'm going to just put some, I think I'm going to use the diamond stencil because it kind of makes me think of, you know, like the Harlequin, since we're doing Valentines. So I'm just going to come in here, and we can use the lines of your page to make sure you're straight, although honestly, it doesn't really matter if you're straight or if you're angled, because we're going to cut these up and get little bits of everything on the different hearts. So I'm just gonna, and really you can go this quickly, just lay down some pattern randomly, let some of it fall in your empty spaces. You're kind of looking to fill up spaces, okay? So I've got lots of blue here, I've got paper showing here with no pattern, so I'm gonna come here, and that's all I'm doing is looking for places that I can fill with pattern. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm trying to watch the clock, guys. Hi, Lori. I'm glad you joined us. Hi, Janice. So here's 2 layers. So what's another awesome thing that we have for texture? Dun, dun, dun. Again, I'm full of the trumpety sound today, I guess. I'm going to use bubble wrap and add now even another layer of texture on. I'm going to use white again so that I can keep it kind of neutral for whatever ends up going on top. And I'm just going to bring my brush loaded with white paint, and I always lay my brush down like this to drag it across the bubbles rather than straight up and down. I'm sure I've told you this before, and there's no right or wrong, okay? So this is how I do it. The reason that I do it this way is when you go straight up and down, your brush goes deeper into those little grooves, and so sometimes instead of getting nice little circles, you'll get circles filled in between circles from the paint that goes in between. And if you lay your brush down, you're just skimming the tops. And if you have bubbles that are deflating, just put a little pressure on with your paint and you'll see them kind of pop right back up. Then I always check to make sure my bubble wrap is really solid with paint, because whatever I see on the tops of the bubbles is what's going to transfer to my project. So if you don't want solid circles, then it's okay to have little partials, but I always just make sure I've got a nice solid coverage. And I'm just going to pat this down, and ooh, love it. Just going to put some circles here and there. Now this is white gesso over here, so it's not going to show up if I do white on top. So since I have white and Salem blue on my palette, I'm just going to kind of bring these together. See, there's no right or wrong to this. There's no magic formula. Just let yourself be creative. So now I'm going to get this lighter blue. So it's going to all be coordinated. And I'm going to brush on my bubble wrap again. And hopefully, we'll see here, when I transfer this, I'll have a very pale blue down on this corner. Let's see what happens. Oh, pretty. Very nice. And so maybe I'll do that again a little bit where my darker blue is and add some lighter blue, which is going to be very faint, but it will add a little extra interest. Didn't get much on that one. Okay, so this is a base for us to start with, and you could keep going. Um, you could add another pattern on top if you want to. You could add more colors. You could tint it, but we'll do that. We'll do all of that with on each individual heart. Okay, so I want to show you some of the things you can do on the hearts themselves. So I made a template, which of course has fallen off the back side of my table where I can't reach. So I'm going to use one that's already finished here as a template, I guess. And I'm going to just down so that it's easier to work with. And I used a paper trimmer for this when I did my hearts, and I trimmed them to 3-inch sections. But for the sake of time, I'm just going to go right down the center here. Now let me make sure I'm going to do that. Okay, so it fits. Okay, and make sure I'm right side up. I'm going to lay this one on, and my template I just cut around, but for this one I don't want to cut my Valentine that's already on the other side of this, so I will trace my heart. And see, I'm stacking so that I can get 2 at a time. And I'll cut these out. And I'm not going to cut all of them out. I'll just do these 2 and then we'll go from these. But this will show you how all that texture that we made ends up giving each heart its own little unique look. And that's just a base for what we're going to do on top. If you do trace around it, maybe trace the back side so that you don't see or have any pencil marks, but I'll just erase that real quick. It'll be buried in what we do anyway. So here we have, oh, this one, see how I caught all the blue on this one? And for this one, I caught that really pretty kind of skippy color here, that paste plastery effect, and then the diamonds. So you would do that with the rest of these. And I flip mine so that I can get right up in the crevice here, and that way I could fit 3 on a side, and I ended up with 6 hearts by doing that. Okay, hi Tammy. Okay, so the one I showed you in the beginning that is totally finished, you're never totally finished until you decide you're done playing, because you can keep adding embellishments. I was actually thinking a little button on here would be cute, but for this one I had the background just like we have here. And let's just mimic this one. Let me see where I'm at for time. I've got 10 minutes left. I think I'll just show you a couple of these. So you can see this one, I tore some paper and added it across one corner. And then I did another layer of stenciling. And then with this one, I adhered some music paper and with matte medium. And then I'll just trim that off. And then you build on this. This one, I'll show you how I tinted this one with the water-soluble crayons. This one I stenciled a little bit of a clock face on. So those are more details added just to the base, and then you decide what message you want to have, or you could paint on them. Flowers would be pretty, stroke roses would be beautiful. I think a little bird would be pretty, but we're going to do this little love. So I used my water-soluble crayons for this. I already got them out. I have pink and red here, and I'm going to show you 2 different ways to do this. You can just literally crayon it on, just color right on your edge, and then take your finger and just pull it in and smoosh it around and see how you, whoop, no you can't see because I dropped it. Let me see if my camera will focus enough. Can you see that texture way in here? It catches all the texture of the paper, and yet you get this really bold outer edge, which is fun. Another thing you can do, I'm going to color this one and do this side a little differently. So here I'm coloring it again. Oh, maybe we'll add some pink in here too. Just going to fill in some of this. And now I'm going to use my matte medium, and just this, since it's water soluble, could use water, but if I use matte medium, it kind of seals the color in. See how juicy that's getting? So I can pull this and it's going to tint my paper. And then since it's matte medium, when it dries, I can go on top of it for my edge. But see how it just tinted all of my paper pink? And yet I can still see the text through. So that's really fun. So on that's what I did on this one that you can see the red on. And let me grab this one maybe. So another thing you can do is just use your matte medium with any color that you like. And so since I already have my antique rose on my palette, I'm going to just pick up matte medium on my brush. The crayons are water-soluble crayons, and the set that I'm using right now is just the Artist Loft brand from Michaels. They come like 16 or 20 colors in a set for I think about that much, about $20 I think, if I remember correctly. So I'm just going to float the edges of this one with the antique rose that I already had out. Now mop it just so the color is very soft. Using the matte medium in your brush keeps everything super transparent, so you keep seeing your layers through every time. Okay, so back to this little one again. What would Valentine making be if we didn't use doily, right? So I put a little doily on the corner of that one. So I'm just going to take, let's see, which one do we want to use? I kind of like this blue. And maybe we'll tuck it over here where the edge is a little darker. So I'm just going to lay this on. I'm going to rough cut around it. And then decide, it could go, oh, it'd be pretty on the very bottom too, wouldn't it? Maybe we'll do this one on the bottom so it's different. And again, with matte medium, it's my paint thinner, it's my glue. Make sure I'm in your, not working out of the camera here. So brush matte medium on, I'll just lay that on. Get it in position. Brush it down. And you just have to press just for a moment to let the paper get kind of saturated with the matte medium, and then you'll feel it just hold down. So we want to let this dry before we trim it, but we'll trim it up afterwards. So while that's drying, I'll show you how I did the little love banner. So where my little paper strip here. I've got a duck out of your view. Okay, so this is just the edging of one of the pages, the border piece. So I took my Salem blue or Whispering Turquoise, whatever you like. Maybe I'm going to go lighter with this one because we've got the darker background behind it. And I'm just going to very loosely paint this. I'm using just a little light pressure so that I tint some of the paper, but I can still see some of that white showing through. And I guess I do need to go just a little bit darker. Let's go over it again. Again, with always allowing those earlier layers to show through, and that way it sort of looks like paint that's wearing away. And I just cut the little pennants from this strip that you see here, and then I adhered those down with matte medium. I painted little XOXO on the edge, and I added old string across to let the bunting be hanging there. I don't know if you can see that or not. So that's how I did that one. And then just quickly, again, the patterns for this was tinted. I think I covered all of those. I'll show you these again, just so you can see. So these are all just bases for, oh, I have these over here, these guys. So you could add writing on them. I use my Tombow lettering pen, Fudenoski pen, and I'll do my brush calligraphy on them. You can write anything your heart desires on here. Write your sweet little message of love. Send it off to somebody that you love, and you have that little handmade touch. And they're so sweet and fun. So I hope you'll give it a try. I hope you'll come back and see me this evening. I'm going to hope I get the time right. Somebody help me with my time. It's suddenly gone out of my brain. I'm the first one this evening, and I think it is 4:30 your time, 5:30 my time. I'm on the East Coast. But check on the little heading in Lori's group to make sure I'm right on that. And then after me, there's a whole gang of wonderfully creative ladies who have awesome things for you. Am I using cardstock or water paper? So I use my mixed media notebook. So it's mixed media paper, and I started right with a page out of that, Lori. Okay, so I have a big one because I do this all the time, but it's very stiff. You could use cardstock. You could use any paper. You want something a little thick so that it'll hold up to the layers that you put on. Okay. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm so happy to share these with you. If you're not in my creative art workshop group, come on over. We're going to do some of these Valentines in February in the group. So we'd love to have you join over there. It's a free group and we just have fun getting creative. And it's where I kind of show new designs first for sneak peeks. So come on over there if you are not a member already. And like I said, come back this evening and see everybody. And I hope to see you then. Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate you all. Bye-bye.